All right, MYB community, welcome back. Episode number 248, yes, of the Minding Your Business podcast, entrepreneurship, real estate, trending news. There's no business like minding your own. Boy, what is going on in America? We've got snow, we got state of emergencies in Texas. I've got friends reaching out to me that haven't seen snow before, that now they've got plenty of it. And MYB, you know that I'm here in Memphis and we're snowed out. We've got about maybe about 6 to 9 inches of snow, and it's falling down right now as I'm recording this here on Wednesday, December the 17th. Hope this finds you well. Subscribe to the podcast, 5-star, wherever you get your pods. That helps us to continue the grow the MYB community. And of course, you can always find me at champronbrooks.com. Shout out to all of you. I'm looking up here. I see you all commenting on Instagram Live. Thank you so much for joining in. I see you, Jerry. I see you, Pretty B. I guess she's pretty. Her name's Pretty B, so I'm assuming that you're pretty. I see Buck. I see all you guys out there. So shout out to all of you. Thank you so much. And for those of you that are joining in and hopping it into the recording on Facebook, thank you so much for doing just that. I always appreciate the support as we continue to grow and build on the podcast. Speaking of growing and building, I'm excited about today's guest that is joining. You know, I always take a little extra credence. You know, I'm a little bit partial to one Zeta Phi Beta sorority incorporated. So anytime I get a chance to have a store, yeah, absolutely. So anytime we get a chance to have some of our great professionals from the illustrious Zeta Phi Beta sorority incorporated, it's just it adds a little extra to it, a little extra heat in the snow when our doves show up. But Dr. Dorsha James, a tremendous professional there in the Nashville, Tennessee area, joins us, and we're going to get into very interesting topic and very timely topics today, kind of from her standpoint. But Dr. Dorsha, thank you so much for taking time out of a very busy schedule and hectic, I'm probably sure, to be here on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Well, I really appreciate you having me. And you're right, it is a busy, hectic schedule these days, but hey, that's entrepreneurship.
Yep, absolutely. You're exactly right. So, Doctor, let's get right into it. I guess, for people that aren't familiar with you, right, because you've gone down the path of kind of getting started in your field, becoming an expert in your field, and then simultaneously kind of got into entrepreneurship. Tell us about your journey to get to where you are today.
Okay, well, I was born and raised in Pontiac, Michigan. So that means that snow and ice aren't too unfamiliar to me. Right. However, right. I've been acclimated to Tennessee. So that means that, I'm like, I'm not going out in that stuff. And so I went to college actually in Memphis. So I have some roots in Memphis. A lot of my best friends live there. I went to medical school in Johnson City, Tennessee, at East Tennessee State University. And then I came back, and I was actually the very first African-American female in the Department of Emergency Medicine at Vanderbilt University. So I finished my residency there, kind of started working in the community, working in the ER, seeing all of that crazy ER stuff that we probably can get into later. Right. But, worked there for 15 years, actually 13 years before I discovered telemedicine. And ever since then, telemedicine has just been my heart's passion. Of course, emergency medicine will always be my first love. But telemedicine, is up and coming and has started to be my passion. Well, is my passion.
Wow, that's awesome. And so tell us what telemedicine is for those that aren't familiar, Doctor. What is telemedicine? Can you kind of describe it and unpack it for us?
Yeah, sure. So it started in the 1950s. A lot of people don't know that. They were able to send a radio X-ray basically from one area of a state to another area of a state via phone. But what telemedicine of today is where you can see a doctor over your phone, your laptop, your tablet. You can talk to them just on the regular phone call, and then they can actually see and diagnose you from that. A lot of people don't really think that can happen, but you'd be surprised at how many things can be taken care of looking at the phone or talking to a doctor on the phone.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so you said that started back in the 50s. And so how has that evolved? Obviously, it's evolved over the years with technology, but from your standpoint, where did you kind of see the opportunity in your business to, what seems like to leverage, a process that, wasn't brand new, but you're
Right.
able to evolve it and kind of take it to the next level?
Right. So in the 90s is when this all kind of started. In 2015, I wasn't introduced to the concept because I use it in the emergency department when someone's having a stroke and I need to talk to a neurologist. We have video cameras and things like that.
Yeah,
But phones became ubiquitous and they became smarter. And
sure.
so something that was around actually, kind of exploded, had a little bit of an explosion in the 90s. And then trying to get people to get on board, that can be very difficult.
Sure.
And so then cell phones are everywhere. And so then people became a little bit more comfortable FaceTiming people. At first, I don't know if you remember, but when FaceTime first came out, it was kind of weird
Right.
to,
Kind of clunky. Right.
yeah, kind of, you're like, I don't know, all these ugly faces I'm making.
Right.
And so then we got kind of used to it, like whatever, you'll just see me like I am. And so the technology really catapulted it to another level. And then we can talk about this later. Post COVID, it just went crazy.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And so, myURGENCYMD, when you started, did you have partners? Did you just kind of go out with a leap of faith? Kind of walk us through, because with this audience of kind of entrepreneurs, people are
Yeah.
always ask about, kind of, those first early steps. How
Right.
did you take those steps, and what obstacles did you face kind of early on? Kind of unpack
Mhm.
those early days of the business.
So when I first started, I had two partners.
Yeah.
It was, when I'll tell you, so I'm a physician who was an independent contractor who didn't have to worry about a brick and mortar practice. I didn't have to worry about anything. I literally went to
Yeah.
work, worked my shift, got off, and got a pretty good check in the mail. Pretty good check in my account,
There you
right?
go.
And so,
Right.
so that was my life. I didn't know the business side of anything. I mean, I
Yeah.
really didn't. And so I had two business partners who weren't medical, they were more business. And so we
Ah,
had some
gotcha.
I wouldn't call them disagreements necessarily, but we saw things through a different lens.
Sure.
So in 2018, myURGENCYMD has been in business since 2018. My wife was finally like, go out there and do it. I mean,
Yeah.
my wife is a judge slash attorney. So,
Yeah.
I had in-house counsel when I needed it. She was like, just do it. And so I'm not going to lie, entrepreneurship, learning the ins and outs of it is harder than residency was.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in the trauma unit at Vanderbilt and I'm sitting here poring over paperwork now and doing things and applying for things. And I'm sitting here like, man, I want to go back to the trauma unit. This stuff is difficult. So yeah,
Right.
so I stepped out. It was a leap of faith. It really was, because it took a lot of funds and a lot of time and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to
Yeah.
actually get things up and running. And so, I used to hear this all the time with entrepreneurs that, you see where I am right now and you don't know what it took to get there. And that is
Yeah.
definitely how I feel, is that people don't know the late nights that I've had. They don't
Mm.
know the
Yes.
staying up for 2 days trying to get something
Speak on
done.
it. Speak on it.
Talking to people that you don't really want to talk to, working with people who take your money and don't give
Mm.
you the product that you
Mm. Mm.
expected. I mean, the list goes on. And so it
Well, you're
was,
preaching.
yeah, it was definitely an eye-opening experience for me in this world of entrepreneurship. I mean,
Mhm.
it's no joke. It is no joke, for real. And so
But it's all worth it.
yeah, it's kind of like something can break down an ER doctor, then, like,
Right.
good gracious. But yeah, I mean, there has been tears, just, and disappointment. And I think the disappointment is probably the hardest thing to deal
Yeah.
with, because you get your hopes up about something. And in order to be disappointed, you have to have built your hopes up, right?
Right. Yeah,
So
that expectation.
you
Right.
have to have an expectation. And so you get your hopes built up, and then you get that darn dreaded email. well, at this
Yeah,
time, we want to go in a
right.
different direction. Oh, you're like, oh, I put so much time and effort and energy and,
Yeah,
so that's a hard part. That's a, very hard part to deal with, but you just get up and keep going. I mean,
yeah.
especially if you're serious about what you do.
Mm. Yeah, that's very rich there, doctor. Oh man, that's very rich. And so, that piece of, when you get turned down, I always had this philosophy, and I learned this through sales and, in banking and in my background, that you want to get as many no's out of the way as possible, right?
Right,
So no's excited me because I knew I had to get X number of those out of the way to get to a yes, right?
right,
So for example, if it took 8 no's to get, and that ninth answer was going to be a yes, then I got to weed through those 8 no's as fast as possible.
right,
Which, yeah, I think it sounds like you kind of learned that through your process, is
right,
even through the obstacles and the challenges that arise,
right.
um, by just kind of staying in the game and keep progressing and keep going because you had a passion and tenacity towards it, you end up finding success, and it just kind of breeds on itself.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest though. I felt so defeated when I first started out,
Yeah,
and I have the kind of spouse that she tells me all the time, "What's the worst that can happen but a no?
there you
What
go.
is the
There
worst
you
that can
go.
happen?" She said
I,
that she
hey,
said
look,
the
I agree
worst
with you.
thing,
I agree with
yeah.
the misses.
She said the worst thing that can happen is that they tell you no. She was like, but you will never know unless you ask. And so I mean, I've been trying to take that to heart, but it's hard. I mean,
It is.
you go through a life, you go through a life where you were the golden child and everybody just, oh, you're so smart. Oh, you're so whatever. And then you start hearing the word no when you've never heard it
Mm,
before. It's like the little spoiled child whose parent finally says, no, get over
right.
here, and their little feelings are hurt. Like literally, my first no, like in this world, you would have thought that somebody stole my bike.
Right. Right. Right.
So yeah, it's
I
like
know the feeling.
yeah. So you're right. You have to get through them as fast as you can, and I feel like once you've heard them a few different times, it's kind of okay, moving on.
Yeah.
And
And
so go
and
ahead.
doctor, and you touched on this. And I was going to touch on this a little later, but I'll address it now because I think it's important for those that are listening. Is how important was your wife, your spouse, during this entire process? And for many, that can be kind of a hit or miss sometimes. And I think some entrepreneurs, their fear factor, particularly if they are in a serious relationship or in a marriage, one of their fears is that the spouse may not be supportive, and if things don't go right, that could be detrimental to that relationship. How supportive was your spouse in those early days, and even to now, and how important was she in helping you kind of balance out things and kind of gain that good perspective? Because I talk to many entrepreneurs where sometimes that's not the case, right? And that almost becomes an additional adversary, so to
Mhm.
speak, even though they may not mean to. It could be someone else that could be an additional adversary that then is extremely close to you personally. So talk about that from just a personal standpoint, because I think that helps a lot of people listening to know that your spouse can be supportive, and support can come in many different forms, right?
Right.
um yeah, it may not be the way that we might expect or may want, but it still can be there and be very relevant. So can you speak to that?
Yeah, so my wife always tells me, and now think about this. You have a
Yeah.
household with a judge and a doctor in the same household.
Right.
Like just inherently, those two things are not supposed to mesh.
Right. Yeah, it's
It's
hard to
like doctors don't
right.
like lawyers, judges put, malpractice
Right.
suits. I mean, just that kind of thing. But what my wife always says is iron sharpens iron. And so one thing that we have vowed to be, and this is not just in our vows, but literally every single day, is that we have vowed to be honest with each other. Even if that's going against or saying something that's probably going to hurt the other one's feelings, we're doing it out of love. So when I first got started, and I had all these grand ideas, and I'm gonna do this with myURGENCYMD, and I'm gonna do that with myURGENCYMD. She would tell me, Dorsha, that's not gonna work.
Right.
I mean, like, no, you haven't thought through this. You need to come up with a flow chart. You need to come up with a spreadsheet. That's just not going to work. And so it became important. She's as much invested into this than I am. I mean,
Yeah.
it's equal. And I think that that's important. You have to, if you have a partner, a spouse, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, whatever you want to call it, who's not supporting your grind,
Yeah.
that's gonna be a very difficult relationship to keep if you're serious about your grind. Now, if
True.
you're more serious about your relationship, then your grind becomes second and your relationship will succeed. But if you're
Mhm.
not serious, if you're truly serious about your grind, and you're truly serious about your business being successful, that person really does have to be, like, it's a prerequisite that they have
Right.
to be supportive. So I can't say, I'll get a document together, and it may be a legal document, and she'll stay up in the morning with me to go over it.
Yeah.
She'll put in as many hours, sometimes more hours, to get things done than I
Mhm.
do. So, I think that's of the utmost importance, because what are the two
Absolutely.
things in your life that are high priority?
Yeah.
Your love life and your financial/work life. Those
Sure.
things are two, and your children, if you have children. So family and love life, and then grind, making money.
Yeah.
So those two things need to mesh. They
Yeah.
really do.
Yeah.
In order to be successful. So
Absolutely.
I can't even imagine having a spouse or partner that wasn't really feeling my business.
Yeah.
I can't.
Right. Right. And that's, doctor, that's bi-directional too. So I imagine you're able to support her,
Correct.
even though she's not a business owner as a judge. She kind of has her own personal brand, right?
Correct. Oh no, you should
And that sort of
meet
thing.
my
So
wife.
yeah,
No,
yeah,
you
she's
should
kind of a
definitely meet my
quasi
wife.
business owner. Yeah.
Yeah, she is. I mean, she has a staff. She's one of those kind of people that she had her own practice before she was elected to be a judge. And
Mm,
so she was a businesswoman first.
yeah.
Her dad told her when she was 9 years old, don't ever work for anybody else.
Mm,
So what she's doing right now is the closest she's ever had to working for somebody else, because of course she has to
right.
answer to the court system.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I completely agree. Completely agree.
Yeah, no doubt about it. For my wife and for my kids, again, my wife's not in business, right? She's in the medical field, but she's not on that kind of the entrepreneurial side of it, right? Although she's actually working on an ownership piece within the clinic to really deepen her ownership stake, which she currently has now, and there's an opportunity to become a majority owner. But she's been tremendously supportive of me. I mean, I get merch sometimes, even just for the podcast. I mean, she's giving that out. She's texting people. She's letting people know. She's not a big social media person. She's bigger on kind of face to face with her
Mhm.
connections and things like that. And she'll walk in, hey, I need some more of these because people are asking about that sort of thing. And I mean, she sold probably just as many of them as I have.
Yes.
And then my girls wear them to school, right? I mean,
Mhm.
almost every other day, there's like, did you even watch that? What I mean? It's like, yeah, but they walk around kind of supporting the brand and telling
Mhm.
other people about it. And so
Yeah.
you're exactly right, doctor. You have to have that support, and you got to answer some serious questions if you don't, right?
Right.
um,
No,
of
seriously.
yourself and the other
Mhm.
person.
Mhm.
No doubt about it. And so my urgency MD. So we kind of got started off on that. Talk about just what is it, and how does it how does your organization work if I've got an existing primary care doctor, right,
Mhm.
that I'm working with. um you know does your organization come as more of a supplement, or do you serve as kind of that primary channel for healthcare? Kind of walk and unpack that for us. At what point does it really make sense for the rest of us to really get involved
Mhm.
uh, with your company?
Okay, I'll tell it in like a story kind of way, because I think that's probably the people will understand it better
Yeah.
than me just giving a business spiel. So like you said, let's first talk about a woman with a child. She may be a single parent, right?
Yeah.
And her child has a pediatrician that they go
Sure.
to all the time. Well, let's say it's 2 a.m. and there's no
Mm.
snow on the ground, but it's 2 a.m. and little Johnny comes in the room and says, "My ear hurts."
Okay.
Now, I don't know if you've ever had an ear infection before, but that crap hurts. Like it really does.
I was about to say, boy, that shit hurts, but I
Ooh,
go a
I
little
was trying to, I was look, I mean, I got the white coat on. I got the white coat on.
right. You get a pass for that. You get a pass
Yeah,
for that
I get a
part.
pass. Okay. So she's wondering, it's 2 a.m. I
Right.
don't want to get up and go to the ER. I know it's probably an ear infection. What is it that I can do right now? Well, let's say she calls the nurse on call, because that's who you're going to talk to. You're not talking to the doctor in the middle of the night. You're
Right.
just not. 9 times out of 10, they'll, and depending on the complaint, sometimes they'll tell you to take something, but I would say maybe 8 times out of 10, they tell you to go to the ER,
Okay.
or come in tomorrow at 6 o'clock to be
Mhm.
seen, 5 o'clock to be seen. Well, instead of doing that, a person could call myURGENCYMD and actually see a physician, because we have our physicians, and they can tell them exactly what dosage of medication to take, if there's some kind of home remedy that you can do before you can get to the doctor's office tomorrow. But
Yeah.
if it's an ear infection, they can call a prescription in for you to the
Mm.
pharmacy that's closest to you.
Right.
So we don't take the place of primary care. We do act as a supplement, but it's
Sure.
more, it's convenient. Now if you call our doctors 10 times in a month, we're going to be like, hold on a second, to talk to
Yeah.
your
Right.
primary care
Right.
doctor. But it's convenient and affordable. And I think a lot of people are looking for that these days, because
Absolutely.
I mean, studies show that it takes on average, a week to get to see your doctor when you're sick. And
Oh, yeah.
nobody got time for that. Like if you're
Right.
sick,
Right.
you're sick. Like you wanna actually be
Right.
seen, and so
Right.
even other stories. I mean, not even, what about the people who don't have primary care doctors,
Exactly.
who are kind of young and don't really, they don't have insurance. They're writing that, I work for a company, but they don't offer us insurance. It's a small business.
Right.
What about those people who may not have insurance and just get a minor illness, just something that is simple? Then they need somebody that they can talk to, because I'm telling you now, walking through those ER doors will
Yes.
cost you at the minimum $300,
Yeah.
whether you are
Minimum.
seen by the doctor or not. And that's
Right.
low these days.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to hit somebody with a big bill for something, a sore throat that they could have just had an antibiotic called in for. And they end up with a bill for $500 or $600 for that. So yeah, so
Yeah.
that's where we come in. We come in to save people the expense of the ER,
Hmm.
but even better, we can triage people.
Yes.
So, you're talking to an ER doctor on the other end of the phone, and you're like, "Hey, I've been coughing, I have this phlegm, my temperature's 102, and I'm feeling short of breath." They're going to
Right.
tell you immediately, you need to be seen. You need to go to
Hmm.
and
Right.
so
Exactly.
it's a good way to triage and to ask a doctor their opinion about something and know whether or not you need to go. So a lot of people don't think about that part of it, but you can actually talk
Right.
to a doctor and say, "Hey, what do I do? Do I go to the hospital? Do I stay at home? Do I see my doctor?" So yeah, we do that. We write prescriptions. We write doctor's notes. If you're out of town and let's say you forget your medicine at home, we'll
Mm.
write you a
Yeah.
short-term prescription for your medicine. Yeah, we do a lot of stuff, and that's not even
Yeah.
all of our services either.
Yeah. And so with the services, what's the overall cost? Is it a membership or is it
It's kind
kind
of
of a
like a
per call?
membership.
Yeah.
It's a membership, and so you can use it unlimited amount of
Sure.
times, and you can add 7 people in your family to it.
Mm.
So the price
Right.
is $24.95 a month
Oh,
for
I mean, what we
yeah,
talking about, you know?
yeah. I mean,
So for
literally.
$25 a month, you can have yourself and 7 members of your family on this plan,
Hmm.
and it can act as, kind of this supplement to having access to real expertise, right? I'm
Right.
I'm not calling, my great auntie at 2 in the morning
Or
who's
Dr. Google.
Right. Dr. Webb, MD. Right.
Yes, Dr. WebMD, or you thinking that your arm about to fall off
Right.
because you didn't call in. You didn't search
Right.
your
Right.
symptoms. Like, I
So,
swear.
yeah, I mean, but so doctor, I mean, this is, when you talk about affordable healthcare,
Hmm.
right? To me, I think this is one of the big solutions is leveraging that technology to be able to scale it and have a scope at a pace that allows people to get involved, right? And can act as that. So, whether, like Jay said in the comments about, it's a great supplement to kind of your PCP plan. And all these different plans, and a lot of organizations, you mentioned small businesses not being able to afford it. A lot of organizations, because of the pressures, and we'll get to this about the pandemic, but one of the things I think will come from this is companies start right sizing the use of these group plans and things like that people have always hold dear to,
Hmm.
that may not be quite there as much in the future, or may not have the level of coverage, right? And the access to your primary care doctor and things like that. And so I think having that great, like you said, we're calling it supplement, but I think it's more just a part of your overall kind of healthcare resource,
Right.
is to have access to something like that, no matter who you are. But I even think back, I've got 3 young girls, and I think back of, you mentioned, ear infections, you mentioned fevers, all the different things that come about, outside of the normal 9 to 5 period when the doctor is available. And like you mentioned, and again, we'll get to the pandemic, but I remember calling the doctor, dentist, all these folks. I remember a dentist told me, I think I called beginning of June, and they said the earliest I could see the doctor or the dentist or whoever was like July 20th.
Hmm.
I'm like, what the
Yeah.
hell?
Right. Yeah.
If I had a toothache or I had something going on, you mean I can't see the doctor, for 6 to 8 weeks? I mean,
Right.
what is it, the old J.C. Penney's catalog, from the 80s? Like, 6 to 8 weeks.
Right.
What are we talking about here? You
Right.
know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Hmm.
And so to be able to get access to that kind of resource, doctor, is tremendous. And so,
Yeah.
let's get into the pandemic a little bit, because, obviously we're coming up on just about close to a year when it
Mm.
first started getting news of, the coronavirus. And, now, we're kind of hearing it's kind of ingrained in our lives. What have you seen different, kind of in your space that, maybe didn't exist, or maybe wasn't quite as prevalent,
Hmm.
kind of pre-COVID to now?
So I give the example all the time that when before COVID, as I'm talking about telemedicine, I'm going to groups, trying to make people familiar with the concept.
Yeah.
It was more of a let me educate you first, and then let me tell you about my product for you to purchase it. And
Yeah.
I'm a newbie in entrepreneurship, but not too many times can you tell somebody what something is, and in
Hmm.
that same conversation sell it to them.
Right.
Do
No, that's
you see
true.
what I'm saying?
Right.
So it was more, I was doing more educating and instead of selling.
Gotcha.
Now I'm a good saleswoman though. I will tell you, I can sell pretty good.
I hear
um,
you.
so so that's where it was. And I would talk to businesses and they're like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, that's a good concept. But then it's like, well, do you want it? Well, let me just think on it, because they just didn't, the concept hadn't been really out there for the public to see. Well, then COVID hits and everybody's in the house, and your grandmama is seeing their primary care doctor by telemedicine. You're seeing your doctor by telemedicine. Your kids are seeing their doctors by telemedicine, because it had to be done. It was
Right.
forced. It was forced to be done. It went from me having to educate people on what it is and the benefits of it, to all I have to do is sell it now. I
Mm.
don't have to educate people anymore.
Right.
It's just a matter of getting it in front of the right people
Hmm.
to sell it. And it's more than a sale for me. But then with COVID, different opportunities presented themselves that I didn't have pre-COVID. For instance,
Gotcha.
we inked a deal with Tennessee State University, myURGENCYMD did, to
Yeah.
provide telehealth to its
Yeah. Shout
students.
out TSU.
Yeah, shout out to TSU. Did you go to TSU?
No, I didn't. My dad
Oh,
worked
okay.
there for several
Okay.
years, but
Okay, gotcha.
yeah.
So we inked a deal to provide telemedicine services to all of its students. Well, stop and think about that. They have an on-campus clinic
Mm-hmm.
that's being, that had to be shut down. So
Right.
that means the students who were forced to quarantine on campus for that period of time before they went home, where do they go? And they're students. So that means that they're kind of young, not too many medical problems. So last fall, we were able to go into a partnership with TSU and provide it to all of their students. And it's been a lifesaver for them. I mean, it has been. And then, it being an HBCU, that helps too, because HBCUs, usually don't get things first.
Right.
They don't
True.
get things first. But yeah, just that college student who on Saturday morning wakes up with a sore throat or nauseated or something like that, they
Yeah.
just calling, and students are all about their phones.
Right.
So they just
True.
call in, see a doctor, get a
And
script.
they probably would prefer that because you think about even pre-COVID having to go sit in the doctor's office. You have a 2 o'clock appointment, but you don't see the doctor till 3:15 anyway. You know
Right,
what I mean? So you've
right,
got this hour of sitting there. Then if you're a new patient, you got to fill out this book of documents and all
right.
that type of thing. So the experience isn't frankly quite maybe the best for anybody, much less
Mhm.
for young students. So
Yeah,
that convenience factor comes into play too.
yeah. Our doctors call back within about 19 minutes. That's the
Yeah.
average. They're
Yeah.
guaranteed to call back in 2 hours, but the time is so. We have enough physicians, and we have them in every state. So this
Right.
even worked for the students who were remote learning.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
kind of like taking their clinic to them,
Right.
and the doctors could that in the clinic could follow up with them because they saw where they were being seen.
Yeah.
So it ended up being a win-win for us because we're able to provide the service to a group that needs it, and for TSU because they were able to offer a service that actually kind of meshed with their student health clinic. And we try to do we're very strict about making sure that their clinic is involved in everything that we do.
Yeah.
So that was a big
Definitely.
deal.
And the thing is even when you said 2 hours, doctor, I'm thinking 2 hours, at home or doing whatever I'm doing is better than
Mhm.
sitting in the doctor's office watching Maury, waiting for
Yeah,
them to call my name, and
right. Because
reading
that's
reading them little
literally
magazines and stuff they got in the lobby.
that's literally 2 hours, and I'll put them in air quotes. Two
Yeah.
hours wasted, that
Right.
you could have
Exactly.
been cleaning your bathroom or sweeping the floors or
Right.
working.
Yeah.
You could have been working, and then next thing you know, your phone rings and the doctor calls you back. So,
Right.
so
And then the
yeah,
doctor in the place, comes and sees you for 5 minutes and kind of taps on your kney and tell me what's wrong and say and makes a prescription and leaves, right? And
okay. So
high fives you and walks away.
hold on one second. Let me explain to you how this works before you give me the 5 minute doctor in the room speech. Okay.
Right. All right. Break it down now,
I'm gonna
Sora.
break
Let's
it down
go.
to you. I'm gonna break it down. So when I was practicing medicine,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes the ER would get literally crazy. It's crazy as you see it on TV. It would get that
Yeah.
crazy. So I wouldn't have time to even use the bathroom some shifts.
Ah,
Literally, it was just that busy where I'm just up seeing patients. So from sitting in my seat, if I had a sandwich beside me and I'm trying to take a bite of my sandwich and take my notes in the computer, let's say they wheel in 3 patients, one
yeah.
in a wheelchair, one walks in, and one on a gurney. From my seat, I'll need to know whether or not, by looking at them, if I need to be in the room.
Ah,
So before we even walk in the room, we have already seen you because we saw you come in. And if we didn't see you come in, we read what the nurse did in her assessment of how you were
okay.
walking, how you looked, whether you were sweaty, whether you
Mm-hmm.
had shortness of breath, whether you were having chest pain. Literally, we know everything about you before we walk in the room. We look at your vitals. The only
Mm-hmm.
thing left for us to do is hit you on your knee and tell you to open your mouth.
Oh, so you giving us the game now,
I'm
doctor.
telling y'all the
Oh,
game.
I
I'm
see
putting you
what's
up
going
on
on.
game. I'm
So
putting you up
next
on
time when I get a hang now, I'm gonna walk in there all toe up.
game.
looking like I done been shot and stabbed and everything
So
else. I'm gonna be
listen, this
sweating.
is the thing. This is the thing. You can't fake vitals.
Right,
You
right,
can't fake them unless
right,
you're good. Some of them good enough to do
right.
it,
You be looking at, hey, wait a minute.
and you can't fake sweat.
Right. Yeah, that's
So,
true.
so we've actually been trained to look at people across the room, and I swear, I would say 7 to 8 times out of 10, when I walked in a room, I knew what the diagnosis was before I even laid eyes on them.
Yeah,
Because they teach you to take a history, and then they teach you to do an assessment, but you can do an assessment with your eyeballs without
yeah.
having to. Yeah, so that's why
Oh,
that's
okay.
why they
Okay,
that's
so now we can all understand.
yeah. So I will say some doctors are, they can be, they can rush you. They don't have that
Mhm.
good bedside manner. But with my patients, even if it was 5 minutes, I had to build a rapport very
Right.
quickly so that they didn't feel like 5 minutes. And I'll give you another trick.
Okay.
They tell us that if you sit down, it seems
Mhm.
like you were in the room longer.
Ah.
So when you see a doctor sit down,
Right.
it's not because they're thinking that, but you'll feel like they were in your room.
Psychologically, right.
Yep,
It
you'll
feels
feel like
like
they
you're
were
in there,
in there
right.
longer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just
I
take note of that. Take note of that
yeah,
if
no,
you, yeah, and see, like, time it and then see how long it felt like.
right.
You're on a little
Absolutely.
study.
No, no, it definitely makes sense. And yeah, I appreciate you sharing that with us. That's good insight for sure, doctor. And so what do you see, yeah, as we're going through all this? Let me ask you about the vaccine. All right. So yeah, obviously, up until I think this week, where you had the frigid weather everywhere, I think there was progress being made. I don't know if I'm right and wrong in saying that, but progress was being made nationwide.
Mhm.
Maybe some places better than others, but progress was being made in terms of the vaccine. Kind of where do you stand on the vaccine and people getting vaccinated? Not getting into the politics of it all. A lot of
Right.
times in this country, we try to use everything that we can to try to divide and create discord, and then you got the conspiracy theory piece of it as well. But just
Right.
overall, where do you feel with the vaccine and how it's going, and maybe ways that we can all work together to help it be a little better, I guess, for all of us.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. Back when they first started talking about the vaccine, now I'm a healthcare professional. I don't practice anymore.
Okay.
And I'm not one of the doctors that when you call in, you'll talk to me. That I don't do that either. I'm
Okay.
focusing mostly on the business.
Gotcha.
So when we first started talking vaccine, there were so many unknowns.
Yeah.
So many, hey, we're gonna rush this through. And I think that probably was the worst thing to tell people, is that you're gonna do an emergency authorization in a shorter period of time than you
Hmm.
normally have to do it, because the technology for the creating the vaccine or developing the vaccine has been there. What
Okay.
takes so long is the red tape that they would put people through. And if you're in the
Ah,
medical field, there's so much red tape. And I'm not saying that some of it doesn't have to be there, but
yeah,
the systems are so archaic that you're not really getting things pushed through fast enough.
I
So
got you.
it's technology that was already there. They're doing it in a time period that probably should be the time period that they're doing it in anyway.
Yeah.
And then they're mass producing them. And
Okay.
so when I first heard of it, I was like, I don't know, I'm like everybody else. And then I
Right.
finally, I did my research, read, found some studies, and go to the NIH page and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, there's no way I wouldn't take it. My wife is diabetic, and they're 3 times more likely to die from COVID than the general population.
Yeah.
And I'm putting her at risk by not getting it. So yeah, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. I'm in a young Black American doctors group on Facebook,
Okay.
and we kind of have these informal discussions and things in there. And we are all for it. The problem is going to be getting our community to buy into it.
Hmm.
And when I say our community, I mean the Black and brown people, because we
Right.
just don't trust it. Like, we don't
Yeah.
trust it at all. And I can see why. I mean, we
Yeah.
have so many
Given the history of a
examples.
lot of things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, I see why. But at this day and age, and I'm going to say this, and I hope it doesn't come out wrong, but in this day and age, to purposely send something like that to a community is too easily traceable.
Mm-hmm.
So if people think, oh, they're gonna send us the janky
Right. The one
vaccines, and
that you grow wings in your back. They're gonna do a 60-minute special 10 years from now, and they're gonna show the wings in their back.
Right.
So I took the vaccine in 2021. Look what happened to me.
Right. So I mean, so the likelihood of that happening is probably zero, to be honest.
Right.
To give it a number, if I had to give it a number, it's probably zero.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be, and until we get people to understand why we're doing it, it's not to make the virus isn't gonna go away. It's just gonna be your body's gonna be able to fight it off better, like we do with the flu vaccine.
Just like flu or the common cold and everything else that are all forms of COVID.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that people, and of course the political folks, you'll never get them to do it. But I really hope that the majority of people do it. I really do. I mean, I was just talking to a reporter the other day who asked, did they think masks were going to go away?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think they're going to go away. I think it's going to be sort of like how it is in Asia, where certain select group of people don't feel comfortable going out in public. And then those of us who've had our vaccine think we Superman. I'm sick of that thing.
Yeah. And that's something, Doctor, I want to get your thoughts on along with that too, is, once you get the vaccine, are you just good? Because I think some people are motivated to get the vaccine just so they can go back to 2019 and before, right? They just want to get back to a normal life. And if that's the only thing in between them, where I don't have to wear the mask, I don't have to feel like I got a social distance, then give me the vaccine. Is that, accurate? Does that, does getting the vaccine, mean that I can shun all this other stuff and get back to, to life as I knew it pre 2020?
No. The short answer is no. Number one, because we haven't had enough people vaccinated.
Gotcha.
And you may be vaccinated, but still harboring some of the virus, and I don't even know if they've done studies on that part yet, that you can spread to other people,
Right.
And so you aren't even safe. You still can get it. It's just a matter of how your body fights it off.
Right.
Have there been people who took the flu shot and died? Of course.
Sure.
Of course. So we're still really new in this, and we don't really know kind of how all that is working. So yes, you still need your mask. Once we get a certain number of people vaccinated, then so it's like, okay, if I'm vaccinated and you're vaccinated, then okay, the likelihood of one of us having it and giving it to the other one in a way that it's going to kill us is probably low, right?
Yeah.
So until that happens, and what they call herd immunity, until that happens, then we're stuck like Chuck with these masks. I mean, we just are. And I absolutely hate it. But I hope that as the numbers start to go down and as we feel more comfortable, like I'm sick of watching concerts on my computer. I'm sick of it.
I think people have Zoom fatigue anyway. I just think that's, all the way around.
And, I was talking to someone last week who said that she hit the pandemic wall.
Yeah.
She said she's normally an introvert. She likes staying at home. She's been fine for the past year, but she literally hit the pandemic wall.
Yeah.
And on myURGENCYMD, we have behavioral health.
Okay.
And so you can see same price, still $24.95, or you can see a therapist, or talk to a therapist, unlimited as well. And so she actually had to call the therapist with her myURGENCYMD membership. And she said she was able to get all kind of tips and pointers to kind of help her with that wall. But yeah, we've hit it. I know I hit it. And I want something. I want to be able to have a concert outside or something.
Right.
If somebody told me it was a concert today, I would put on my coat,
right,
my gloves and my earmuffs, and I would be out there jamming.
Right. Right, no doubt about it. Yeah, I think that those are things that motivate many people. I know for people in my side of the business, doctor that are itching to business travel. I typically travel a good bit because I've got customers that are spread out through the Midwest, and so typically I'm hopping on and off planes and in and out of airports and hotels, and I haven't been able to do that in almost a year just
Yeah.
because part on my end and then part on my customer or the bank's end, not interested in meeting, face to face. And so, I'm itching to do that and looking at events, because, some of the banks and banking associations are hosting events that I'd like to be able to attend to some capacity, but then there's the safety
Right.
and soundness piece of it. And so, yeah, I think we're all getting a little fatigued with that. And listen, we're social beings, as everybody
Yeah.
knows, human beings, and we want to be able to go to the concert. And you didn't say which artist, so I wasn't sure if you were getting into whatever you're trying to get to your little baby concert.
Let me see. Who would I want to go see? The last person I saw in concert was Raheem Devine.
There you go. Okay.
But I'm trying to see who my favorite artist is. Beyonce, and that
Okay.
literally just happened. I literally said it out loud for
became
the
a
first
B fan.
time.
How is that?
Yeah, I just literally said that out loud on Sunday
Oh, okay.
for the first time ever. I'm like, I really do think my favorite artist is Beyonce.
There
Like,
you go.
yeah,
Okay.
so
Better late than never, I guess.
better late than never.
Shout
Yeah.
out to me. Yeah, no doubt. So, doctor, you've done this transition, in being in the medical field as a professional and then being an entrepreneur. And I think there are others that are listening that aspire to do the same, or maybe they have and ran into obstacles or roadblocks. Because it's such a specialized field, obviously in medical, and then I think there haven't been many that I'm aware of that have made that successful transition, and you definitely have. What's some advice? What are some best practices that you could share with someone listening? One of the things I always pride on this podcast is that when people get done listening, to our conversation, what's something practical that they can take with them that they can go implement or execute. So what's maybe one or two things that you would share with someone that's starting out in their business, especially if they're coming from a specialized field? They may not have that business background, like you mentioned, but they're still able to learn it and able to execute it successfully. So what are one or two things you'd share with that person?
Yeah, the first thing I think I would share is don't quit your day job. until you can quit your day job.
Facts.
You can't go into, and I'm speaking from personal experience. Literally this is me. But you can't go into being a business owner unless you're dead serious about it. And I know what I did to start off. I read my butt off. I listened to podcasts. I literally anything I could put my hands on or watch videos, I would do. Now, granted, you can't take what everybody says and use it. But I would just glean little tiny pieces from people. So I would say, get a mentor. Don't quit your day job until you can quit your day job.
Yeah.
But then one word that I like to focus on is focus. It's very difficult. I mean, when I say focus, I'm thinking of it from a medical standpoint where you have to adjust your eyes and everything has to be in the right alignment and in order for it to be in focus.
Yeah.
So focus on what it is that you want your business to look like and just focus on that. Now that could change. It could change tomorrow. But focus on that, because I will tell you, distractions are real. They are real, and you'll get these mirages, to go along with my visual imagery. But you'll get these mirages, and you'll get off track because somebody, they're doing something that you think will be beneficial, and and it's okay to make those moves. But never lose focus of what it is that you want your business to look like. And I'm sitting here in amazement talking about business when that hasn't been that's not what I was trained for. I can talk medicine all day. So I'm sitting here in amazement, is this coming out your mouth? You really have learned? You really have learned. stuff since you started this journey,
Yeah.
and that's what it is. I mean, and to be honest, no, you're gonna fall flat on your face. I
Hmm.
mean, just know it. Get ready for it. Matter of fact, practice falling on your face because you're gonna do it.
Right.
And just focus. And,
Hmm.
that's pretty much my word. My word for this business, this company from UrgencyMD, I swear, is just focus on what I want it to look like. And
Yeah.
what I want it to look like may change, but that's what we have
Wow.
plastic surgery for.
Yep, exactly. And exactly. And doctor, because focus covers so many different areas of discipline and vision. I've always explained it as a tenacious focus where, when you do something, you're aggressive with, you have this aggressive focus, right? Where you're not always looking side to side as to what's going on. And I think that's a great message for all of us in the workforce or in entrepreneurship, business ownership, particularly in these times where there's so much noise. Right.
Yes.
Every day, there's so much misdirection and you don't know what information is true and what's not. And so many things are political. So many things, like I said earlier, divide people. And, and I think successful people are able to hone in and focus on, even though I've got this list of 10 things I want to accomplish, let me get one done. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I hear. I think you built your business by, hey, let's take this first step. And sometimes, many of us, we want to jump right to level 10, right from the beginning. And
Right.
we kind of have this all or nothing. Either I'm
Right.
not going to do anything or I got to be on 10. Right.
Right.
And, and the world's become that. We don't like the middle of anything. Right. We
Right.
don't like middle class. We don't like we don't like the middle of anything. Everything is this polarizing, all or nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love when you shared that about, not quitting your day job till you're prepared to do so. And there's
Mm-hmm.
no shame in that because it's a process, right?
Right.
Um, and you got to get past what people think is the sex appeal of doing that, right? Because people think there's sex appeal in firing your boss. But as you know, and I know, and many listening know, that when you start your own business, you have many bosses at that point. So you're firing one boss, maybe, or maybe two. Now every customer becomes like a mini boss, right? So now if you have 100 customers, guess what? Now you have 100 bosses,
Right. That's
right?
the truth.
Because any of them can fire you at any point,
They
right?
can.
And now you got
Right.
to do something different, right? And so, whereas ultimately in the workforce, your boss could fire you or whatnot, and then you'll just go somewhere else. Or if a customer fires that company, it may not directly impact you right
Mm-hmm.
away like it does in your own business. And so, I love that. Being mindful to not quit your day job until prepared.
Right.
And then that focus is just so that the discipline around that and the vision is just so critical, doctor. So thank you so much for sharing that. I think that helps a lot of us and maybe serves as a reminder for others.
Yeah. Thank you.
For connecting. So people should go to myurgencymd.com
Yes, that's
to be able to connect.
yes, that will get you all the information that you need about the service. You'll see that pretty little $24.95 price sitting
Yep, I
there.
saw that. Yep, I saw that. It was quite pretty now. We had someone on Instagram that called themselves Pretty B. So I don't know, maybe it's as pretty as
Pretty
Pretty
my
B.
urgency MD is what we're gonna call it.
Yeah, that could be the next part of the business.
And then you can also connect with me directly on drdorsha.com
Yes.
as well. So yeah, we're proud. We're proud of what we have to offer. I would never, ever associate with something that I wouldn't want and that I wouldn't use myself. And I actually have used it
Yeah.
because you remember you said you have all those, you can email it. Well, you can talk to a dentist and a pharmacist and all this. So we have
Yeah.
9 different specialty providers that you can email questions to.
Yeah.
So
Tremendous.
yeah, upload your picture of your rash before you think you about the your arm about to fall off with Dr. Google. So that's one of the other services that we provide. So yeah, if anybody wants to connect, myurgencymd.com would be a great place to start.
Yeah, absolutely. And so those links, MYB, are in the show notes, and I'm sticking them here in for those of you that are on Facebook, and then those of you that are on Instagram. Make sure that you connect with those links, and if you connect with Dr. Dorsha and her team, let them know that you heard them Dr. Dorsha right here on the Minding Your Business podcast. Listen, Dr. Sora, this has been tremendous. I'm honored to be able to have this dialogue with you. I'm so thankful to Jay for connecting us on today. This has been fun.
Yeah, I've had
I
a great
really
time.
enjoyed this.
Yeah, I've
I
had a
really
great time.
did.
Thank you so much.
So we'll have to do this again. Maybe next time you can come back and you have been to a concert or two, and then you can tell us a little bit about.
Hopefully somebody heard me and they'll throw one out here in the snow so I can go.
Right. Yeah, definitely. So listen, best wishes to you and your family, to the Mrs. and the rest of your family, Doctor. Thank you so much for, what you do in the community to help educate us. And again, it's about helping us be just a little bit better. And I think that this service is amongst the future of healthcare and how we provide healthcare in this country in an affordable, direct, and impactful manner. So thank you so much for your innovation, with that, and look to remain connected and definitely enjoy the rest of the week. I imagine you got a little more heels there in Nashville than we got in Memphis.
Yes, we do. So I've been in the house, and I drive an SUV. I'm not even trying to test it out today or any other day.
You sound like my wife. So my wife got an SUV as well, but
I'm not even trying.
It's got, like Tupac said, the killer, but don't push me. Right.
Right.
So definitely, Dr. Dorsha James, our guest today, just tremendous. So, Doctor, again, thank you so much, and much love to you and your family.
Okay, same to you.
All right, excellent. Dr. Dorsha James again here on episode 248 of the Minding Your Business podcast. Hey, listen, NYB, don't forget, before we get out of here, text me 312-847-4071. You want to be part of the MYB community? I share all kinds of resources from many of my guests who have discounts and different things going on, including myURGENCYMD, which you'll be getting the link for those that are in the community. Something special that'll come from me. But make sure you connect 312-847-4071. And again, don't forget me at champronbrooks.com. Remember, there's three things that unite us. No matter whether you're stuck inside from the snow and the ice, no matter what side of the tracks you come from, or what side of the lake, or what side of the ocean. Three things unite us all. We all want to be a little bit better for ourselves, a little bit better for our families, and a little bit better for our communities. And if we remember that with everybody that we come in contact with, we can all collectively make this place just a little bit better. Remember, a little bit better for ourselves, a little bit better for our families, a little bit better for our communities. Doesn't matter how you look in the mirror, doesn't matter your gender, doesn't matter any of the things that sometimes are used to divide. We can all come together around those three things. So keep that in mind, again, as you come across people, and let's get through this thing together. All right. Champ Ron, the Minding Your Business podcast. Go be great.